KP.
KPC.
News.
Information. Culture. KPCC.
California Sensibility.
Hey, I'm Amy Choi.
And I'm Rebecca Lehrer, and we are the Mashup Americans. We like to ask questions about American identity and, just try to get some answers.
We're always trying. Sometimes we're more successful than not, but I would say, if successful can be defined as ending up with more questions.
Yes. I think that's how Socrates would define it or something like that.
Well, I'm going to align myself with Socrates on this one. All right. So, Rebecca, here's a question.
Yes.
Have you ever had a Shamrock Shake?
What is a Shamrock Shake?
What is this friendship that you don't know what Shamrock Shakes are?
No, but really, seriously, tell me, what is it? Sounds crazy. And I'm going to Google it as you tell me. Oh my God,
I'm getting goosebumps as I speak. Shamrock Shakes are one of McDonald's brilliant inventions that they release in March. It's like a limited edition milkshake that is this otherworldly shade of green, and it's mildly minty, and it's available to all to celebrate the Irish. No, growing up in the Chicago suburbs where you go down to see the river turn to fluorescent green every year, and everybody is suddenly emerging as an Irish person with a hat and an orange and green pin. Shamrock Shakes were an annual ritual. They're amazing.
Okay, so I've just Googled them. They look incredible. My sense is probably 10,000 to 500,000 calories. And definitely has a maraschino cherry on top. But this was not a thing in California that I know of. So this was not my experience. I definitely wore green in order to not be pinched in school, and sometimes would forget and then feel really embarrassed that I didn't wear green because my parents had no idea that this was a thing. And but it's really funny because this idea of being Irish for a day, that's a funny thing, right?
Can you be a Jew for a day?
I don't know. That's a really good question.
I don't know. You've definitely, I've adopted you as a Korean for certain days.
Yeah, well, in my heart. Right. We here are all about celebrating people who celebrate their heritage and bringing their whole selves to everything they do. But then it also feels pretty gross when you see people claim a tribe or identity just because it's cool for one moment or because it makes a good photo op, which was something we see a lot of in St. Patrick's Day with specifically our current government. So there were millions of photos of Paul Ryan, of Kellyanne Conway, Mick Mulvaney, and maybe even Steve Bannon wearing green.
Oh, those are just the grossest people. Also, to be honest, as somebody who grew up around white people who suddenly all seemed to become Irish in March, I didn't notice that. But somebody who did have a lot to say about this particular topic is our guest today, Maeve Higgins, a recent Irish immigrant to the U.S.
Maeve is the host and creator of hyphen-America, a podcast that explores all about what it means to be an immigrant in America today. She's an Irish visa holder, maybe soon to be Irish American, and she has a few thoughts about these Irish when it's convenient people.
As soon as I started to pay attention to who Trump was surrounded with, it was really the scales fell away, and I was like, oh my God, there are so many Irish Americans in his, cabinet. There's Spicer, Pence, Ryan, Kellyanne Conway. There was a guy, his name is Mulvaney, who was defending the cuts to foreign aid while he was wearing a shamrock, which is a symbol of Irishness, and so many people left because of the famine in Ireland. And he was on TV wearing this symbol, talking about how it wasn't his problem, there was famines in the rest of the world. So it just really crystallized for me this St. Patrick's Day, which is a day kind of given over in DC and in many cities around the US to Irishness. Mm-hmm. It's funny because in a way that's touching, right? It's oh, these people are connected to their immigrant heritage. But then there's actually they have that in one little box that doesn't seem to play into the rest of their lives often. Because I don't know how you could hold that in one place and then in another place you could say we're banning refugees. which is exactly what they're doing. So I kind of think, well, then you can't have that. Like, that's not yours.
Right. You've got to take it all at one time.
And I mean, the president made a little video of like the St. Patrick's Day celebrations with like our Taoiseach, that's like our prime minister, and the video had like bagpipes playing Amazing Grace. Like, bagpipes are Scottish, like Amazing Grace is English. Like, it's all muddled up. It's like all muddled up. And the other thing is like that I guess I talked about on my show with Chris O'Dowd was like, we do this presentation where like the Irish people give the American people like a bowl of shamrocks, which is basically like a weed from Ireland. and also like, I guess our Prime Minister was advocating for Irish undocumented people. And while I think there should be a path to citizenship for everyone that's undocumented, actually that's what I think and think is possible too. But I'm like, you can't just select one group and like, oh, guess what's different about them? Like, they're mainly white.
Right.
It's just like too blatant for me now. I can't ignore it. It's kind of like we're a classic example of this group of immigrants who pull the ladder up after ourselves.
What about faith?
Like the way everyone's Catholic in Ireland.
That thing. I wasn't going to say it, but I'm glad you did.
Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, that still has a huge role in Irish life.
Does it in Irish American life as much?
I mean, I think so. I mean, the expressions of Irish America, when you look at, say, the St. Patrick's Day parade in New York is a good example where gay people were not allowed to march under their own banner up until last year. So like that's a very Catholic overhanging thing, I think. I mean, if you look at Mike Pence's stance on abortion, again, that's very Catholic, very Irish Catholic. Abortion is still banned in Ireland. You cannot get an abortion in Ireland. You have to go to England. I don't know the percentage of like Catholics in Irish America, but I get a very Catholic vibe.
Just radiating Catholicism.
Yeah.
What has your experience been, or like, I guess, what was your expectation? And then what has been your lived experience of Irish America?
I actually didn't think about it a lot. Like, it's funny, my relationship to Irish America is that, like, I grew up in Cove, which is like a harbour town where very many people left from during like the big waves of emigration from Ireland. So we'd have kind of like Americans in like
finding your roots.
Yeah, like knocking on our door and like taking pictures with us and stuff. Like, and it was always like
maybe you're my cousin.
A cute thing, but it was kind of like, oh, like. So my relationship with Irish America was like, oh, they left, and like Ireland's very much like a country like where people leave from. So when I got here, I wasn't like looking for like I wasn't looking for them at all, and I was like, here I moved to New York specifically so that I would like meet a ton of people from everywhere, and like I think this city like attracts people that are like curious and ambitious and like from everywhere, and that's like what makes one of the things that make this city like really interesting and fun and like hard to live in. Like it's like, you know, a messy place.
What is the kind of first question you get when people hear your accent?
A really fun, cool thing for me is I get even less questions here than I did like in England. About like where are you from or like when did you get here? I don't know if it's like because people are busy, but I actually don't get a ton of questions. And I mean, often people like don't understand what I'm saying at the start. You know, just like
that's so interesting.
Coffee places, and I have to slow down. And then I get teased a lot when I do go back to Ireland because I sound American.
Right. What's your Starbucks name?
Oh, Sarah, Sara.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Maeve, Sarah, same.
But yeah, I mean, if I get into a conversation about like being Irish, it is an Irish American who's asking me, and then like they tell me where their great grandparents were from, and we have like that kind of just short, you know, like that's where they're from. Oh, cool.
I know that place. I used to get drunk there in college.
Right. It's interesting too. Like I always think like when you are a generation or 2 or 5 or 6 removed from your roots, like the motherland, for lack of a better term, then you're also so hungry for a connection.
Yeah, and I definitely didn't respect that when I first got here. Like I was like, okay, Irish America, you're your own thing. Like, fine. Yeah, I was talking to this journalist about just some stuff that was happening around St. Patrick's Day. And he was saying that his great grandparents came from Ireland and that he never thought about it or cared. And it wasn't, but like now he's got this like longing. You know, he's like 40 now and he's just started to try and figure it out. And it was very honest, and it was very deeply held to him. And so then I was like, God, like, how would I feel? Because I don't know, because I didn't even leave Ireland myself until I was in my late 20s. I don't know what that would be like. And as well, you know, to claim like the beautiful parts of Ireland, that's like a great joy, right? You know, the music and some of the writing that we've had. And
You too, Bono.
Shut up.
No, listen.
No.
I'll still cry with or without you.
Oh my
Still
God.
will cry.
Yeah.
See the stone set in your eyes. See the thorn twist in your side. I'll wait for you.
Maeve is the best. We'll be back to our conversation with her in a second, but quick reminder, if you haven't done it yet, please head over to itunes.com/mashup and give us 5 estrellas. We love to see your love, and it really helps other people find us. itunes.com/mashup. Back to our interview with Maeve.
With or without you. With or without you.
When you think about putting roots here and what America means, how would you describe how that has changed?
You know, sometimes I'm like, well, I pay tax here, and like I don't have a vote here, but I don't have a vote in Ireland either, because we don't have that you can vote from abroad like Americans do. That's been hard, because I'm like, oh, like, how can I use my voice? Like, how can I be part of like this community here without like a vote? And like, no, I'm going to call a senator, but it's not my senator. You know, like.
Right.
What I love about your show is that like you do celebrate the mashup and the diversity and the inclusion of all these words. I had this one guest on, Yossi Reyes, and he's like a really brilliant artist, like spoken word, hilarious guy. And he was saying that, you know...
I, by the way, don't usually think of those two words together. Spoken
Right?
word and hilarious.
Oh my God. I was telling my producer, I saw him and I was like, please don't worry. I was like, we have to book him. But before you say anything, believe me, he is hilarious.
Rebecca is the biggest supporter of the arts that you will ever meet. She has a mental block, which many of us do, to poetry and spoken word. And that's fair. I think
It's
that's
more spoken word. I'm going to be fair. And actually, many of your fellow countrymen's poetry I happen to love. I just want to throw that out there.
Yeah,
okay?
because Irish people are too mumbly and shy to like stand up on a stage and just like hold forth, like making eye contact with you. No, we don't do that. We just like put it in books that we're mortified about and we hide it under the bog. But like
under the bog.
Definitely under a bog.
So many things in those bogs.
Wait, what is a bog?
I mean, what made me think of that is like Seamus Heaney's poem about digging under the turf and stuff. But like, no.
I know, but then I was like, is a bog something I don't think it is? Like, is it like...
No, it's like, you know, like it's
like a marsh,
tough.
right?
Yeah, it's like a marsh. Yeah, it's like turf.
So Rebecca asking that question is the perfect lead-in, because I've read in, it was an interview that you had done, I think relatively recently, and you said the line that like saying to us, because it's our governing principle in Mashup, which is you don't know what you don't know. Not knowing right now in our culture is like pounced upon and punished, and like you're a fool, and if you don't know, you should be curious and ask questions and then amend your behavior, your thinking accordingly. It's nice to be open to that, right? Being like, what is a bog? Maybe Irish people call bogs something different.
Yeah, I know.
Maybe that's actually just like your nether regions. Like, we don't know.
I was like, is a bog a mailbox? No, I thought it was a marsh.
Oh, really?
What do I know? No. Speaking of which, we want to talk about languages with you. So we heard that Gaelic isn't your best language, but I was wondering, like, do you speak it? What does your family speak it? Can you tell us what your relationship is to Gaelic?
What my nana was Gaeilgeoir is like someone who speaks Irish all the time at home and with their family, and they live in Gaeltachts, which are like the little parts of Ireland where everyone speaks Gaelic or Irish, like I say Irish. So
like small communities of people speaking
Gaelic. And like very small. I think it might be like it's less than 1% of like the whole population. So that's like, what is that, like 2 people? It's a very small number of people.
Your grandma and
and her brother and sister. I mean, everybody speaks English, and like we learn Irish in school, and it's kind of like it's like you know, when we were colonized, the Irish language was banned, right? So like it was really snuffed out a lot, and you weren't allowed to speak it. You got in a lot of trouble if you spoke it or taught it. So then, I mean, I guess you'd think that like when the English did leave, or when they were forced out, that we would like reclaim it. And some people did, but most didn't actually.
What do you speak when you speak to your grandmother?
Well, no, because she spoke English then. Like she grew up in the Gaeltacht, and then she left and like moved, and then so she didn't speak to me in Irish. She spoke to me in English. Yeah.
Oh, it's so challenging, right? I have one grandmother who's still alive, and she lives in Chicago. She immigrated here from Korea after I was 14. So, I mean, my parents had been in the country for 20-some years at that point, and we had, you know, multiple aunts and uncles. So many of her children were American at that point. Even now, she's in a nursing home in Chicago, and if I go, I have to bring a translator with me.
Wow.
Because she speaks a few words of English, and my Korean is like, I can understand when people speak to me, but I can't speak back to her. So if I go see my grandma, like an aunt has to come with me, or a cousin that speaks fluent Korean.
Wow. She was like in her 50s when she moved here, or a bit older?
A bit
maybe?
older, probably. She was probably, she moved here, I think, in her late 50s. And
It's
then,
an interesting time to like start your life over in a new country.
right?
And also a different time in the world and a different culturally. Like now you might be like, I'm going to get on plenty of fish, start
Right.
dating.
Right.
You know, in your late 50s, you could start a whole new kind of, but I'm fairly certain for your grandmother from Korea, that wasn't the thing she was doing.
No.
And so
No, maybe she is now. You know, she's very fit.
cool.
Yeah.
This is a lot about accents too, I think. And I would love to talk about that with you. That like my sister and I were going to have perfect English. And so in order to do that, we spoke as much English as possible. They wanted us to speak Korean and understand Korean, but that was never we didn't want that to collide with our English at all.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that has to do with, you know, my parents immigrated in the 70s. There was a lot of anti-Asian racism, which still exists today. But having an Asian accent from whatever country you are from is not charming.
Yeah.
It is not cute. It is not considered dignified or smart. Whereas, like, if somebody can be speaking with a British accent, doesn't matter what they're saying. Americans are like, that's adorable, you know, or like, it sounds really dignified. Just like skin color, some accents are privileged over others.
Yeah, and I think I benefit from that too, because like the Irish accent has associations here in America of like being charming, and I think being funny too, and being, I guess those are the
Romantic,
two.
like-
yeah, but not like sexy. No one's like, oh, say 33 again. Like no one's gonna be. It's more like, I don't know. It's like cute, like a cutie.
Like mist over the bog.
Right.
Romantic, yeah. Nobody knows what's underneath those bogs. but-
Maybe. This is poems. That's like so romantic. It's funny, I don't hear like a huge variety of accents on like American media. You know, I really love you know, it's like BBC Global World News podcast, and like they just have reporters calling in from all over the world. So like it makes sense that they would have accents, or like everyone has an accent. And like, but here I'm like, but people live here from all over the world, but like they just don't hear these accents. Like
Right.
you really
Yeah.
don't. Even like, you know, Latinos on the news and stuff. I can't tell. It's just
Everybody's
like,
code switching,
Right.
which is a thing that I think comes very naturally to mashups, which is that like whether it's your behavior, like you act one way at home, or you act one way in one setting and act a different way in another,
yeah.
or your diction changes, like how Rebecca speaks English to her family is different. English and Spanish, like the blend of that, like that we're creating new languages
And like
all the time.
Yiddishisms and
Right.
all
Right.
that. Yeah, no, I think, well, also, I mean, one of the things that made me fall pretty deeply in love with my husband was that he understood quickly when he met my family, and specifically my grandmother's, that he had to adjust the way that he was speaking, and he was able to do it. And I think that I see other friends who are not children of immigrants, and they talk to like an immigrant parent or grandparent, using slang and stuff. You're like, why? That person doesn't know what you're talking about.
Right.
You're not at all thinking about the way you're communicating and how it's being heard.
Mm-hmm.
It was important to me, especially since my husband is many generations American, that he actually quickly understood that and was able to adjust. It was something I appreciated about his sensitivity, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. And that, like, if you're in a more of a monoculture, that's something that you don't think about. Like you said, like when you're in Ireland, everybody's Irish.
Yeah.
Nobody has an accent because everybody's essentially speaking the same way. And when you are a mainstream white American in this country, or many generation white American, like everybody sounds like you. Like, because all the newscasters sound like you, whether they are Black, brown, Asian, whatever, they all still have that like Central Ohio established accent from CBS or whatever.
But I just think that's such a cute, great specific that like you mightn't have known that that's what you wanted in a partner. Like that's like, I love that. You know, that you couldn't have put on your dating profile, like someone who will know how to address my grandmother within a minute. Like, it's so specific to the person. I love that.
Hey guys, we're taking a quick break to let you know that Maeve put together a playlist for us about what America sounds like to her. Get it on our newsletter, which you should all subscribe to at mashupamericans.com/newsletter. In addition to the playlist, you'll also get curated news from around the world and our resistance inspo of the week. Get it. mashupamericans.com/newsletter. Back to the chats. What do you think about when you consider whether you want to put roots down?
And what do roots mean?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
make babies.
I guess like buy a place maybe, or I mean, I don't know. That's a good question.
Are you
Have a family maybe?
pursuing citizenship?
Or but I'm far off citizenship.
Right.
You know, I have like another visa to go before I can think about a green card. And a green card is 5 years until you can apply for citizenship. So right now where I am, it's like 8 years away from beginning to apply for citizenship.
Right.
So I'm a long way. And those are not even definite.
Right.
You know, I have to get this next visa and then get a green card. And then, so that's not even a thing that I can think of as an option. It's just like, maybe.
So on your show, you are talking to immigrants to America from all places and at different stages in their immigration, how long they've been in the States, et cetera. You know, you've been doing this for a few months and thinking about it for a year or so in terms of the podcast. What are some through lines that you've seen?
One thing that a lot of my guests have in common is that like they have a really strong love for and like maybe didn't want to leave their country, which I think you don't hear a lot about. Often when I hear talking about immigration, like in America, it's kind of like, well, what are they doing for America? And like everyone wants to come here and, you know, America is the best. And then it's like, well, actually, like, for example, my Syrian guest never planned on, he had to leave Syria, you know, he loves Syria. And like he's grateful to be here and like he's making, you know, all that stuff. But at the same time, like he would love to be in Syria with his family and his twin brother and his dad, you know. And then the same with like, you know, Roz, my guest who came from China like 70 something years ago. She's almost 90 now and she came when she was 18. She has a really strong link to China. You know, she's lucky enough being able to go back there since the curtain lifted. So she's been back there and she has ties to both countries. That's been a very strong theme throughout the show, that like there's still such a strong attachment and love for your home country or your country of origin, as well as like your new home country, which is in the show's case always America. Another thing has been this theme of starting over, which might sound obvious, but you really, because you do leave one life behind and you start over, but often it's just on such different footing because like you're here. So I remember like Yemi, who came from Lagos when she was a teenager, telling me about her dad, who was like a well-to-do businessman. They had a very middle-class life there. You know, he came here and he literally was cleaning toilets. Like he started as a janitor. I didn't want to go for like the striving immigrant narrative or like, you know, but genuinely I do think that when you move here and you begin again, like you have to really raise your game. Like, you're going to be tenacious and hardworking, and like, that's just the way it is. So that's been a big theme of the show too.
What does America sound like to you?
So at the moment, like, a bit scared. Like, it does sound a bit scared, but there's just so many voices here. Like, there's just there's like so many voices, and I think it's like not finished yet. Like, the story and the idea of America. Like, I mean, I've been listening. Like, that's like what I've been doing. I've just been like, what do you think? What do you think? You know, and definitely I think there's a lot of fear, and I think that's justified.
So from there, we'd love to do a little speed round, so whatever comes to mind first, they're not hard questions.
All right. What is your comfort food?
Oh, Shake Shack.
Oh, my God.
No, you know what? I actually want to change my answer because I'm fucking obsessed with them. And as a joke, I said I moved here for Shake Shack. I like said that. And then they sent me a voucher for $25. And I was like, that's it? Like, I was like, that doesn't even cover, like, that doesn't even cover my fucking Subway for a month.
Shake.
That's one shake. I want one now. But yeah, truly that is my comfort food, which I need to really address.
What menu items?
Peanut butter shake and fries.
Oh,
I mean,
you
like
dip the fries.
Elvis style. No, I just cry and I go into a dark room and I say, I deserve this. I deserve this. It becomes a treat that turns into a punishment very soon.
I understand. What is your Baba Misa?
Oh, I guess pray to Saint Anthony.
What will Saint Anthony?
Saint Anthony is like the last things if you lose something.
Oh.
Yeah. Then I often am like, I offer one up. Okay, Anthony, where is it?
Does it work?
It's like, it works. Yeah, it works.
Does St. Anthony help with your passwords? Because I always lose my
password
passwords
dementia.
in my brain.
Well, here's a tip. Make your password St. Anthony.
Okay, wait, no. You have to go change them all now. Nobody break into Maeve's bank
What have
account.
I done? You sold me down the river, Anthony. You're no saint.
Terrible
That
saint.
guy.
We throw you in the bog, Anthony.
My friends who are actually like Australian, they just had a baby here. And I've started to think of like all these like, I mean, I was telling them this is like absolutely not still the case, but like my uncle was named a girl's name to like protect him from fairies. You know? And I was like, he's only 60 now. But like when he was born, his parents believed enough to like actually on his birth cert call him Mary. So that like the fairies would think he was a girl and they
not
wouldn't
wanna
steal
take
him.
Because fairies only steal boys?
Yeah. And then you're
Obviously.
left with like a changeling. You know, like they put like a crappy baby.
Well, thank you so much, Maeve. This was such a fun conversation.
Thank you so much. I love your work, you guys.
Love yours.
Thank you.
Hey, where did we go? Days when the rains came down in the hollow, playing a new game.
I am so excited that we got to talk to someone who's a recent immigrant to the U.S. and just really get to hear Maeve's point of view on what America feels like and sounds like today.
She's super honest. It sounds like fear, but also strength and hope and Irish accents and Midwestern accents and California accents.
What?
All right, well, so everybody check out Maeve in America. That's Maeve in America in all the places that you get podcasts. Her latest episode is all about the children of immigrants. That's us, guys.
Yeah, that's us. The Mashup Americans are me, Rebecca Lehrer.
And me, Amy Choi. Our producers today were Jocelyn Gonzalez and Hans Butow. Our show is produced by American Public Media and Southern California Public Radio, KPCC.
We're also supported in part by an award from the National Endowment for the Arts on the web at arts.gov. Adios!
Ciao.
You, my brown-eyed girl, do you remember when we used to sing sha-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la